Доброго времени суток, дамы и господа. Продолжается путешествие Алекса Людоеба по колонии Алкион и его приключения во внешних мирах. Мы прибыли на Стеллар-Бэй, на Монарх, на спутник Монарх, и теперь потихонечку начинаем выполнять здесь всякие разные квесты. Найти Силию.
Could I get another advance, Mr. Nandi?
Just make sure it's properly logged.
I'll note it next to the others, sir. Greetings, and welcome to Monarch Stellar Industries, producers and purveyors of the finest salt tuna in Halcyon. What can I do for you today?
Там, о чем это вы говорили? У вас трудности с деньгами?
Not at all. Mr. Nandi treats us all right and pays us well. I just spent most of my paycheck on Raptidon acid.
Вы всегда спускаете деньги на внутренности Раптидона?
Laws, no. Sometimes it's canid teeth, or mantis worm wings. Whatever Sebastian has in stock, really.
Зачем вы покупаете у Себастьяна столько всего?
So I can talk to him, of course. He doesn't get going about much else. Sort of the strong, silent type. Unfortunately, my apartment's kind of filling up with his stuff, and some of the neighbors are complaining about the smell.
Может, я поговорю с ним за вас?
Would you? I'd appreciate that so much. Maybe don't tell him I wanted you to ask. Just that you met this really nice lady named Celia, and she seemed... Oh, Mr. Nandi's doing that thing where he breathes through his nose real slowly. I'd better get back to work.
Подождите, чисто любопытно. Что вы нашли в Себастьяне?
He doesn't talk much.
Себастьяне.
Quiet intensity, you know? Like there's stuff going on inside his head that you have no idea about. Plus, he's got great legs. It's hard to find a man who doesn't skimp on lower body exercises.
Так, вы правда хотите быть с тем, с кем не о чем поговорить?
You think that's what I'm looking for? You're funny.
Есть и другие, Силия.
Not in Stелlar-Bэй. Everyone else who isn't taken either smells like salt tuna or they're my boss. Besides, a man with a good smile and a proportionate upper to lower body ratio isn't something to pass up.
Так, это все, что мне нужно знать.
Sorry, sometimes I get carried away.
Позже поговорим. Так, мне надо грим.
What did he say?
Так, Грим попросил узнать у вас про его тазбольный плакат.
You know, sending you is the first bright idea I've seen from that man, because I told him to stop bothering me about it a week ago. I still don't know anything about it, but if you want to help him, Velma's the one to ask. She's in the warehouse. But I'll warn you, Grim wore her patience thin a long time ago.
Спасибо, так и сделаю. Так, Себастьян, но он где-то тут тусит. Вот он стоит, Себастьян. Себастьян Адамс.
Hello, stranger. Can I interest you in Raptidon tongue? Or maybe some canid toenails? You look like a man who's looking for some mostly fresh animal parts?
И зачем бы мне все это понадобилось?
I don't know. Celia usually buys whatever I have, and Mr. Pickett seemed real interested. So I thought maybe I was onto something.
Мистер Пикет?
He came to Stellarbay years ago, just before the board cut us off. Ended up stuck here. He was always real interested in our monsters. Mantiqueens, especially.
Ты когда-нибудь видел жукоматок?
Sure, they're real big. Hard to miss them.
Чем ему нравились жукоматки?
Who wouldn't be?
Тем, кто ценит собственную жизнь, Себастьян.
Now that just sounds like a fancy way to say boring people.
Где ж ты видел жукоматок?
Well, I could send you to the same place I sent Mr. Pickett, but I haven't seen him in a few weeks. To tell true, I'm starting to get a bit worried about him. Tell you what, I'll tell you where I sent Mr. Pickett if you promise to look for him. Help him out if he's got himself in trouble. Fair deal?
По рукам. Буду поглядывать по сторонам, вдруг да увижу его.
All right then. Leave town through the southern gate, the one right here, and head past the abandoned ruins. Last Mannequin I saw was in the wilds out that-a-ways. Could be Mr. Pickett still out there, too.
Так, хочу поговорить про Силию.
Huh. I haven't seen her in a few days, but I've been meaning to ask her how that Raptidon acid is working out. I hope it's working okay, because no one else really seems interested in this stuff.
Ты бы сходил с ней на свидание?
Wait, I see what's going on. She put you up to this so she could get a discount, hmm? Don't get me wrong. I'd like to give her a discount. She's a real fine lady. Always talks nice and slow, so I understand. But if I give her one, I won't hardly make a bit, on account of no one else having any use for Raptidon tongues.
Убеждение. Тебе не обязательно мне верить, просто пообщайся с ней, обещаю, она не будет просить скидку.
You sound pretty sure. And she is awful nice. Okay, I'll do it. Once her shift ends, we'll go someplace nice. Maybe to Chef Raymond's.
Так,
You look like a man who's looking for some mostly fresh animal parts?
так, насчет мистера Пикета.
Yeah. You find him yet?
Где мне его искать?
I sent him past the ruins just south of town. He was hunting for a mantiqueen out there.
Ладно, покажи, что у тебя есть на продажу. Так, а я хотел продать что-нибудь. Что я могу продать? Что мне нахер не нужно? Так. Вот как-то так. Но у меня скидки в магазине маленькие, потому что у меня репутация в Стеллар-Бэй маленькая.
Have you talked to Sebastian yet? What did he say?
А он сказал, что сходит с вами на свидание.
Okay, but how did he say it? Did he sound excited? Or like he was just agreeing to it? Was he like, yay, a date with Celia. I've secretly been waiting for this. Or was it more, sure, I don't have anything else going on.
Так. Слушайте, это ваш шанс. Получайте удовольствие и не заморачивайтесь. А, вы ему нравитесь, Силия. Главное, не просите у него скидку.
Not to worry. If I never buy another Raptidon tongue, it'll be too soon. Ah, look at me going on. I'm sure you've got other things to do, and Mr. Nandi's giving me that back-to-work look. Anyhow, thank you.
Так, теперь надо с плакатом разобраться. Ну, тут реально городок небольшой, но тут, сука, гребаный лабиринт, блядь. Да, и прикол в том, что завод консервный на в Эмералд Вейл, на Терре 1, или Терра 2, на Терра 2, а, блядь, китунца ловят здесь, на Монархе. Приспособление для рыбоведческой резки. Эту пилу для рыбы не мешало бы почистить.
Look, you can tell Catherine the new shipment will be ready when it's ready, all right? She's welcome to come up here and pack boxes herself if she's in such a hurry.
Кэтрин просила передать, что если не будешь следить за словами, она тебя саму в коробку закроет.
Did she now? Well, I can see I was mistaken. Because if Catherine really had sent you, there'd be a lot more expletives in your message. I hope you can forgive my temper. This job has been running me ragged lately. First, my autoloader foreman stages a walkout, and now my chief pescatological health manager is missing.
Старший кто?
Braxton. He's in charge of getting the fish fat, but also making sure they don't get too many tumors. He's a real wizard with pharmaceuticals, but he has creative notions of working hours. Comes with living in a free colony, I guess.
Рано или поздно он вернется. Нельзя ограничивать чужую свободу. Так, мне казалось, на этот счет есть правила.
We're not keen on rules for rules' sake around here. Means Braxton skips work sometimes, but it also means no company boss is telling me when I can take a shit.
These MSI types are living the dream.
Since you don't seem to be constrained yourself, maybe you could check up on him. He lives in the apartments. Tell him Velma said to get his lazy ass down here, or she might start noticing those extra drugs he's been taking from supply. Something else on your mind?
Так, я насчет плаката для грима.
This again? I swear, this is the last time I contract for any special requests. You can tell Grimm his poster came in. You can also tell him I got a better offer for it. So now it's going to Nell. That about cover it?
Кто такая Нелл?
She runs the betting parlor across the way. Nice professional lady. She asked me about the poster once. Just once. Made a real generous offer, too.
Значит, дело в деньгах.
Damn right it is.
Так, но пока плакат еще здесь, верно?
It's staying locked up in my office until Nell shows with her money.
Так, ты вот так возьмешь и отдашь плакат грима другому человеку? Разве он за него не заплатил?
No. I paid Sublight for it. So, it's mine. And when Nell pays me for it, it'll be hers. Grimm may have asked for the poster, but it's not his until I take his money.
А, мы же можем как-то договориться?
Sure can. If you want to pay me more than Nell's offering.
Так, пока не буду ничего платить. А хотя, пойди мне навстречу, я ведь все-таки помогаю тебе с поисками Бракстона.
Sure. And once you finish helping me, then we can talk about the poster.
Давай поговорим о чем-нибудь еще.
Fine by me.
Что за бригадир?
Caleb Herrick runs the autoloader operators. He thinks I don't pay them enough for flipping switches and turning dials. He and his whole crew walked out. Say they won't come back unless I pay them more.
Так, я могу поговорить с Калебом.
You mind slapping him around a little while you're at it?
Да легко.
I'm joking. Mostly. Unless you can do it without hurting his job performance. If you can find a way to get him back to work, I'll make it worth your while. Check the yacht club. He's usually there.
Сколько квестов. Так, говоришь, Бракстон крадет препараты?
Stealing's such a nasty word. Let's call it skimming. And yeah, let's just say I've noticed the sterile biotics we use for the fish would get used a little faster on Braxton's shifts.
Так, почему ты его не сдашь?
We're not like those corporate towns where you get fined for sleeping on the wrong side of the bed. Besides, the Spacer's Choice stuff we use is cheap enough. And Braxton knows how to get this all tuna, fat and mostly tumor-free.
Так, когда я только зашел, ты упомянула какую-то Кэтрин.
Sublight boss out of Fallbrook.
Но мне к ней
Handles
надо.
most goods that come in or out of Stелlar-Bэй. Has a mouth like a ground six spacer.
Так, ладно. Поговорить про Калеба.
Unless you're here to tell me he's agreed to do his job again, I've got nothing to say.
Так, у них ведь довольно тяжелая работа, верно? Разве они не заслуживают достойной оплаты?
Hard workers? They turn dials and flip switches. The machines do all the actual work. Caleb and his crew have it better than anyone else around here, I'll tell you that much.
Почему просто не повысить ему зарплату?
I don't have the bits for it, plain and simple.
Логично.
Besides, if I make an exception for him, I gotta do the same for everyone.
She's principled, in at least this area. I will begrudgingly give her that.
Thank you. I think. If Caleb wants to keep this job, he'd better get back to it. I'm about ready to hire sublight contractors at this rate.
Так. Ты согласишься пойти на компромисс с Калебом?
For running me ragged while he takes an extended leave at the bar? Not on your life.
Когда-нибудь кто-нибудь обязательно заметит, что производительность упала, и отвечать за это будешь ты.
Maybe so. But I bet you Caleb runs out of bits first. Then he'll have to come back. He says he's got a stash to tide his crew over. Could be he's all talk. But if the money's real, I bet you he keeps it at home. Near the diner.
Давай поговорим о чем-нибудь еще.
Fine by me.
Так, ладно. Бывай. Итак. Дневник. Добудьте для грима. Так. Вильма еще не получил денег от Неллы, плакат лежит в ее кабинете. Но можно украсть, в принципе. Пойдем к Бракстону в хату. Ну, там сразу куча квестов.
Someone's been killed! I think I'm gonna be sick.
Возьми себя в руки и расскажи, что случилось.
I clean the apartments while everyone's at work. I've seen all sorts of messes, but this... If you're going into the apartments, do not go into the lower one on the right. That's where the body is. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go contemplate a hot shower.
Так, тут тела не видать. Опа.
Murder. Hey, is this the part where we go hunting for clues?
Да, именно так.
To die.
Квитанция на ставки на Тасбол. Квитанция на все более смелые ставки на команду «Почти колонисты». Оформлена в букмекерской конторе «Левое поле». Поспешно собранный чемодан. Несколько мятых костюмов одинакового покроя и цвета засунуты в чемодан. Так, ну я улики нашел. Но этим мы займемся чуть попозже. Сначала надо к Бракстону сходить.
You startled me. Don't sneak up on a person like that, huh?
Я ищу Бракстона. Вы его не видели?
Braxton. I've never even heard of a Braxton. Got nothing for you, sorry.
Так. Вы принимаете наркотики.
No! Okay, maybe just a little. Braxton always has a good stash, and I just like to let loose a little. Stop thinking about the marauders and the raptidons outside, you know?
То есть вы все-таки знаете Бракстона? Где он сейчас?
Oh, damn.
И...
He told me he was delivering to this house in the ruins south of town. Whole family had fallen sick, and he had some meds on hand. So maybe look for him there?
Это все, что мне нужно знать.
We're in agreement that this Braxton is probably dead, right?
Ну, наверное, да. Ладно, пойдем сначала квест выполнять. Нет, ну... Выучим, выполним. А сейчас пока тут побегаем. О, Эбигейл Эдвардс.
Hello, dearie. Why, I don't believe I've seen you before. And with sweet cheeks like those, I'd remember. What can Auntie Abigail do for you?
Вы отвечаете за распределение лекарств?
Yes, indeed. Someone's got to keep Stella-Bay's people healthy and energized.
Вы с таким энтузиазмом говорите о своей работе.
Oh, but I am. I get to see plenty of my neighbors here, and I do dearly love a little gossip.
Пока ничего, бывай. По-моему, с ней будет какой-то замес. Блять, не туда. С другой стороны вход, короче. Блять. Понастроили, сука, лабиринтов. Left field, tossball betting. Ставки... Левое поле, ставки на tossball. Нам сюда.
Ooh, you're the new face. Wow, you must be up on all the latest tossball games. So who do you follow? Wait, don't tell me. You look like a Hammersmith Thunder fan. No, Glacial H Mammoths.
Я играю за дорогуш тети Клео. Вы что, меня не узнаете?
Darlings? Seriously? I mean, yeah, you're looking at the Darlings' newest recruit. Boss is a shoo-in for Rookie of the Quarter.
I'd heard they'd gotten a new hacker. Is that why everyone's making such a fuss about you? But what are you doing on Monarch?
И это часть благотворительного тура по Алкиону. Мы общаемся с поклонниками по всей колонии.
Maybe we're not so isolated as I thought.
You get to listen to games all day? Stellar-Bэй really is a paradise.
It's pretty swell, but it's a whole lot better with company. Say, I don't think I've seen you before, and I'd remember that face.
I'll try not to be a stranger then. Name's Felix, by the way.
Молча слушать.
You should stop by more often. The games are always better when you've got someone to celebrate with.
Sounds like a good time. I wouldn't mind bringing a couple drinks and settling in for the pennant match.
Look at me, getting carried away again. So, what can I do for you?
Так, я нашел ту квитанцию в квартире мертвого человека. У вас есть какие-то предположения, что с ним могло случиться?
Poor Isaac. I was wondering why I hadn't seen him in a few days. I'd really like to help. Isaac was a sweet fellow, even if he did have terrible teeth.
Переходите к делу. Вы знаете, кто это сделал или нет?
I don't know for sure, but I saw Elijah and his buddies pushing Isaac around. They're hooligans from Fallbrook. They sweep into town, drop supplies off behind the warehouse, and spend the rest of their stay getting rowdy over tossball games. They usually loiter in the alley behind the yacht club. They're not allowed in the bar anymore. I bet you anything Isaac ran into trouble with one of them.
Спасибо за подсказку.
Mr. Sanjar will be pleased to hear about it when you're done. I know he gets fed up with the Fallbrook bullies, but there's not much he can do.
Так,
If it isn't the famous hacker enjoying Stелlar-Bэй,
еще
what can
как.
I do for you?
Так, вы говорите так. Вельма говорит, вы перекупили у нее тазбольный плакат с автографом, который заказал Грим.
Signed by the Black Hole himself. There's no way I could pass that up. Why, did you want to see it? I don't have it yet. I'm waiting on a few customers to pay up before I can give Velma the bits.
Так, ладно, я могу выкупить у вас этот плакат?
I don't know. This isn't just some poster. It's a genuine tossball artifact. The Black Hole doesn't even sign things anymore. He just puts a stamp on them. Of course, the only reason I asked Velma about it in the first place was because those Sublight fellas lost my shipment of official tossball jerseys. I was gonna line the walls with them. They're the new ones, now with authentic game time aroma.
Оригинальным? Хотите сказать, игроки и правда в них потели?
Of course not. No, authentic means close enough to be the real thing, but not actually the real thing. Everyone knows that. Anyway, I guess they tried to take a shortcut around Amber Heights and ran into some trouble. Can't blame them for trying. Those iconoclasts never shut up. But they lost a bunch of cargo, including my jerseys. If you could get those for me, I might let Grimm have that poster.
Я постараюсь.
Only if it doesn't get in the way of your busy schedule. To think, a famous tossballer like you helping little old me.
Короче, вот вам несколько решений квеста. Либо послать Грима нахер, сказать, что плакат выкупить не смог, либо ее запугать, чтобы она отдала плакат, либо выполнить квест с этим Блэкстерном, как его, которого это ищет начальница со склада Вельма, либо этой мадаме принести эти потерянные тазбольные футболки. Вот вам 4 вариантов закрыть квест 1. Это называется... Ну, это не нелинейность, это называется как вариативность. Так, вы говорите, у вас проблемы с тазбольными трансляциями.
Graham's always filling the airwaves with his propaganda, like it's done him any good. All it means is the tossball games get to us in fragments. Makes them real hard to watch.
Пока это все. Так, ну нам надо в яхт-клуб идти, сначала разобраться с челиками за яхт-клубом, потом в яхт-клубе с Калибом перетереть еще. Кораблик мой стоит.
What are the chances of all the times and places we could have been born?
Блять.
Yeah.
We're here, light years
С
from
другой
Earth.
стороны, наверное, вход, по-моему.
Every time.
Please, will someone help me? My boy's in trouble.
Где ты? А, вот бабка стоит. Не
Oh,
бабка.
thank you for stopping. Everyone acts like nothing's wrong, like my little boy isn't at risk of being eaten by some vile creature. Please, you have to help me get my little Tucker back. He ran away and is going to get himself killed. Oh, I just know a raptidon is melting him with acid as we speak.
Ваш сын пропал? Где вы видели его в последний раз?
Oh, I just knew you were a good person. Agnes, I said, this is the man to save your little Tucky. And I was right. He ran out into the wilderness a few days ago. I warned him about the raptidons, mantisaurs, and marauders, the toxic sulfur pools, and poisonous plants, but he didn't listen. Please, won't you go and find my boy?
Так, вы что-то говорили, она... Почему Такер сбежал?
He's been pining for an adventure. Says he's tired of living cooped up behind the walls. But he doesn't understand how dangerous it is out there. I warned him. A raptidon would snap him up first chance it got. I just know one's ripped his arm off and is gnawing on his sweet little fingers. He should have listened to his mama. I promised I'd keep him safe here with me.
Куда он мог отправиться?
He's been listening to those awful broadcasts that the iconoclasts put out. I begged Sanjar to put a stop to them, but did he? No! And now I just know my boy's run off to Amber Heights. That is, if a manta queen hasn't spooled out and eaten his entrails for breakfast already.
Так, где же Эмбер Хайтс?
That old settlement, southwest of Stеллар-Бэй. I don't know which is worse, the thought of my son shacking up with the nutty iconoclasts. Or that he never made it. Sprats could be nesting in his rotting body alongside the road as we speak. Or maybe marauders got him, pulled all his teeth out, crushed him into their drugs and made him snort them. Oh, the things that could happen to my sweet baby.
Что вы говорили про иконоборцев?
Those low-life degenerates, leading innocent boys into a life of danger. Oh, they make it sound so exciting. Like it's noble to risk it all out there, fighting for the greater good.
Not sure I'm seeing the problem here.
You're one of them, aren't you? You should be ashamed of yourself, young man. Just as your mama would be. How noble is it to worry your loved ones? Not at all, I say. But still they preach their sermons of anarchy and rebellion to anyone who listened. If they weren't holed up in Amber Heights, I'd knock them all upside the head.
Я помогу вам найти сына.
Thank you. Oh, I know he'll be safe now that someone's able to fetch him home. You look for him in Amber Heights, you hear? It's down the road southwest of town. I'm sure he made it that far. I just know it. And if you find any of them iconoclasts indoctrinating my boy, you punch them in the mouths. Tell them what I think of them luring little boys away from their mamas. It's immoral.
Так, где эти уёбки стоят?
Who the fuck are you? This ain't your alley.
Ебало завали.
Hey, what are you doing here? This is our secret alley. Berta already pissed by those crates to market.
Я знаю, что вы убили Айзека.
Listen, that purple-toothed twerp had it coming. Not that anyone has proof. And not that it's any of your business.
Теперь это мое дело.
Oh yeah? What are you saying exactly?
Хватит запугивать людей, если шкура дорога, убирайтесь и никогда больше не возвращайтесь.
Wow. Most of the pencil pushers around here cave as soon as you look at them funny. Fine, we're going. This ain't worth it.
Съебал нахуй отсюда. Она, говорит, уже поссала между ящиков, чтобы пометить территорию, сука. Так. А, еще один навык. На куда бы его вложить? Вот так. Теперь надо зайти. Да можешь быстрее ногами перебирать, блядь. Так, теперь в яхт-клуб, чтобы с Калибом перейти. Хотя тут...
Last night's game? Backers 16, Darlings 3. How do you like them mock apples, Max?
Since when have Cleo's Darlings played so poorly in a consecutive sweep? You wouldn't be pulling my leg in order to win our bet, would you?
Why are you asking me? Don't your scripture tell you that everything happens by the will of the universe?
Здорово, Санжар.
Well,
New business turns up at last.
Celia, didn't I tell you our new statistics-based advertising model would be a hit?
That you did, sir.
How can yield improvements of 26.7% not quicken the pulse? How can 32% cost savings not moisten the loins?
You've often posed these very questions.
Clear my schedule. This newcomer has a meeting with me.
Нет, это у вас встреча со мной.
Did you hear that power play, Celia? They don't make them like this anymore in Halcyon. I only hope you don't judge me by my handshake.
Now, what business brings you here?
Так. У меня свой путь. Я иду туда, куда меня несет ветер.
What a charming notion. One doesn't meet many free spirits in Halcyon. Not outside Tartarus prison, anyway.
Forgive me, I'd be positively enraptured. Only I take it this means you aren't here for Saltuna.
Если в этой насквозь проссанной шпрысами колонии мне еще хоть раз попытаются скормить под видом еды чей-то неудачный химический эксперимент, я кого-нибудь укушу.
Yes, that's it. Channel your anger.
I only wish I could do the
Сука.
same.
I had hoped that livening up our advertisements with enticing figures would draw the other corporations back to our bosom, but it seems we're back to the drawing board.
Так, если вы свободны от влияния других корпораций, зачем стремитесь ее восстановить?
Because he's scared to go it alone. You need the board to hold your hand and tell you everything's gonna be okay. Ain't that right?
Surviving alone isn't as easy as it looks. Thanks to the so-called hazard clause, Monarch has been cut off from the board's resources and protection for 10 years now. Now, we've kept ourselves in business by trading with individual corporations, but given the off-the-books nature of those transactions, such arrangements are precarious.
Так, похоже, вы свободнее, чем кто... Так, значит, вы устали перебиваться случайными заработками.
Yes, freedom is a tempting ideal, but a rather costly paramour.
Can't imagine why you'd sneer at the notion of a free colony. Could it be because you're an agent of the establishment?
I used to be young and idealistic too, but you can't run a city on high-minded ideals.
Exactly. Intellectualism fuels the train to mankind's future, but the tracks the train runs on are forged from practicality.
Sounds like something out of the chairman's own notes, Vic.
Yes, it's as though the good vicar has plucked the very words from my brain.
Так, и как вы хотите это изменить?
Well, Mr. Nandi here has a rather ingenious plan to get MSI restored to the board.
On our terms, mind you.
Are you out of your mind? You can't just go crawling back to your old masters.
Well, we can't continue to subsist like this either.
And if our advertising scheme hasn't borne fruit, then perhaps it's time we took matters into our own hands.
А эта барышня знает, что говорит.
It's true, our Celia is an alarmingly competent middle manager. At any other company, she'd be wasted in data entry. The plan she refers to is a two-pronged approach, and the first part involves seeing Stеллар-Бэй properly defended.
И как вы собираетесь это сделать?
With a Bolt 52 cartridge, of course. If you can get us what we need to rejoin the board, starting the Bolt 52, we'll be able to become one of the most productive and secure cities in Halcyon.
And you'll have a powerful ally on the board.
Похоже, этот ваш Болт 52 полезная штука. А что это?
Why, one of the strongest defenses in Halcyon. An extremely powerful ordnance.
I was starting to get bored listening to you until you said the phrase extremely powerful ordnance.
It is quite the rush.
А, не хватает интеллекта. Допустим, Болт 52 у вас, и что дальше?
I'll need to gather some supplemental materials, but I mustn't get ahead of myself.
You do tend to do that.
The Bolt 52 will be in the old arms building southwest of town, which used to be part of Stellar-Bэй before we had to move our walls in. And these days, it's overrun with marauders and raptidons.
Почему вы так произносите это слово?
Saying what which way?
Храм. Храм, а не храм.
That's just what it's called. It's supposed to stand for something, but I forget what.
Ну, думаю, я не промахнусь.
Oh, and while you're at it, there should be a terminal in the arms building with some dangerous information. Perhaps you could delete it so it doesn't fall into the wrong hands.
Так, я хочу кое-что у вас
What can I do
спросить.
for you?
Айзек Роуз мертв, я нашел тех, кто его убил.
That's terrible. What happened?
Это все Элайджа и его приятели. Я гнался за ними до границы города.
I'm glad to hear you've dealt with them. They've been causing quite a bit of trouble around town. I've been consumed with other matters of late, but I would have dealt with them eventually.
Несомненно.
Of course I would have. Still, your intervention in the matter is much appreciated. Please consider this payment for your services.
Так, меня встретил Грим, сторож посадочной площадки.
I see. And was his delivery of the MSI authorized greeting up to snuff?
Не придерешься.
Well, that's excellent. I'll see that your feedback makes it into his review. What else can I do for you?
Так, я ищу инфоброкера.
Hiram? Why, he's probably still out at Devil's Peak. Not that he's had the courtesy to notify me, at any rate.
Как мне добраться до пика дьявола?
You'd head south along the road and look for a mountain to the west. Not that I'd advise it. It's a terribly dangerous trek. But if you insist on going, I'd recommend taking a local guide. Nyoka would be a prime candidate.
If you can keep her sober.
Так, у меня есть вопросы о прошлом МСА.
Then it's good that I keep such meticulous notes.
Как вышло, что МСА потерял место в коллегии?
I've asked myself the same thing many times, especially seeing as the legal mechanisms we employed were part of the board's own bylaws.
То есть вы сами запустили процесс отстранения?
Not intentionally, though that's technically true. For many years, this planet was home to as many corporations as Terra 2. But back then, it was known as Terra 1.
Терра 1 и Терра 2? Я смотрю, фантазия у коллегии не очень.
Really? I always thought they were refreshingly straightforward names. After all, the whole point of terraforming was to make them Earth-like.
Here, though, the results were mixed.
And as the other corporations began to tally their losses, they decided to pull out.
Но не МСА, верно?
Our leadership at the time certainly wanted to.
And how did that work out?
Most regard Monarch as a lost cause. But there were others of us who saw an opportunity. The chance to improve working hours and conditions, to reform MSI from the ground up.
Так. Реформа для слабаков, Санжар. Какой прогрессивный настрой.
It's humane. But it's also good business sense. Exhausted, sick, and malnourished workers are not productive workers. Even a cursory review of the data bears that out. Anyway, we learned of a loophole in the corporate bylaws that would allow MSI to claim ownership of the entire planet once the other corporations pulled out, creating the perfect environment for us to enact these new reforms.
Использовать правила коллегии против них же самих? Находчиво.
That's what I thought. But the senior executives laughed in our faces and insisted we'd be relocating to Terra 2 along with everyone else.
Однако же вы все еще здесь.
Yes, some of us stayed behind, and as the most senior executive remaining, I ended up in charge of what was left of MSI. I moved forward with our planned reforms, as well as our strategy to assume ownership of the planet. Yet not long after I renamed it Monarch, the other corporations dislodged us from the board and began an official campaign to paint us as lawless savages.
Так, такой низости даже от коллегии сложно ожидать.
I don't think I realized how far they'd stoop. Everything we did was legal and above board. We followed their rules, and yet they still found reasons to declare us outlaws.
Your first mistake was expecting the board to cut you a fair deal.
I understand the sentiment, but if we can't rely on some sort of framework, then what do we have? I do think there's something useful in a governing body like the board. something that keeps us from anarchy, but I dearly wish it functioned differently.
Так, расскажите... Так, расскажите, почему вы хотите вернуться в коллегию?
Why wouldn't anyone? They own nearly all the resources and infrastructure in Halcyon.
Yeah, and once you go back to him, he'll own your dignity too.
Without the board, chaos would overtake the system. Working within the established order isn't a principle to snub one's nose at, Captain.
To be on the board is to be part of the colonial community, and being cut off means slow strangulation.
С вами обошлись довольно сурово. Неужели возвращение того стоит?
I'm not a man to put pride before progress. If membership on the board can ease our hardships and provide us with opportunities, then that's the path I mean to pursue. Besides, I'm hopeful that additional leverage on our part will allow us a more equitable relationship.
Рычаг давления? Так, правильный подход. Им придется с вами считаться. Так, будьте осторожны, коллегия шуток не терпит.
Oh, believe me, I've learned that much. But I'm also not going to leave MSI at a disadvantage. My hope is to maintain the reforms we've managed here, and who knows? Perhaps once we're restored, we could spread them to other corporations.
Короче, тут можно замутить так, чтобы иконоборцы, которые здесь живут, объединились с Санжаром, и Монарх объявили независимым от коллегии. В общем, можно такую тему провернуть. Что такое положение об опасностях?
It's a legal provision that gives the board the authority to cordon off any planet or location that it deems dangerous.
Sounds like the board gave themselves the power to arrest an entire planet.
They would say it's for the greater good.
Оно было применено к Монарху, верно?
Yes, making all of MSI criminals in the board's eyes. Rather hard to run a business that way.
Так, я хочу о другом поговорить. Мне надо идти. Короче, дело к ночи. Чё у меня тут за задание? Куда кладут болт? Ну, клёво. Пространственно-преступный континуум. Вот это. Но на складе тут валяется где-то на...
Isn't it true the OSI is just a cog in the machine of oppression?
I'm glad you're asking questions, Felix. Curiosity is the foundation of the scientician faith.
Don't try and convert me, preacher.
Так, кровавленная записка. Мятая записка найдена на мертвом теле в Стеллар-Бэй. Большая часть текста испачкана кровью, но вы можете разобрать слова «Лилия» и пароль «Ископаемая». Так, пароль я добыл. Ну, с Кэтрин мы потом встретимся. Так, Калиб и его трудолюбивые друзья. Пойдем с Калибом побазарим. Надо сейчас в городе, в Стеллар-Бэй, порешать вопросы, а потом уже за город идти там разбираться. Ну, можно, короче, либо бабки у него украсть из его... Вон там у него тайник. Я только не помню, как туда попасть. Да, через верх.
Wow, how'd you do that?
Но можно было и не красть его сбережения. А, и ну и не око здесь еще тусится. И это какой-то хрен стоит вот этот. Беннет. Стрёмный тип. Мне око. Вот она бухает постоянно.
New face, huh? You from off-world?
Ага, капитан Хоторн с безнадежного.
A ship captain? Well, I'll be. Here, let me buy you a drink. Consider it an MSI welcome. Why don't you grab a chair, sit a spell and revel with us?
Нам нужно поговорить о...
Sure thing. What did you want to discuss?
Плохие... А нет, ладно, хуй с ним. Санжар уволит Велму, если вы не вернетесь к работе.
I never meant to call for anyone's head on a pike. Velma's not my favorite person, but she ain't been cruel to us. Devil it all. Now you got me feeling sorry for her. Fine. I guess we'll go back to work to save Velma's job. We'll find a better time to negotiate our wages. Tell Velma not to worry. We'll look out for her. Why don't you grab a chair, sit a spell and revel with us?
Ладно. Ну, накопление можно было и не воровать, можно было просто его убедить вернуться к Велме. Опять же, несколько способов решения вопроса, скажем так, здесь. Можно украсть накопление, сказать ему, что это самое, но это взлом нужно прокачивать, чтобы замок взломать. Можно просто ему солгать и убедить. Можно другими способами его убедить вернуться. То есть тут, как говорю, вариантов много для каждого, скажем так, стиля прохождения.
I'd give you a friendlier welcome, but I'm up to my elbows in salt tuna guts.
Так, хочу поговорить про Калиба.
You knocked any sense into him yet?
Я сказал, что ты можешь потерять работу, он пообещал вернуться.
Well, that's awful nice of him. Sure wouldn't have expected that. Thanks for your help. You've gotten me out of a tight spot here. Take this for your efforts. Honest work deserves honest pay. Something else on your mind?
Нет. Так. Вот.
So, Vic, what was it like in prison?
I don't like to talk about it.
Ну,
Was it run by Spacer's choice?
What part of I don't like to talk about it do you not understand? Is it the don't? Because it can't be the talk.
I bet it was a Spacer's choice prison. Did you taste the freedom?
It baffles me why the captain puts up with your willful idiocy, Mr. Millstone.
да, отряд у меня, отряд самоубийц в натуре, блядь. Так, ладно, продолжим в следующий раз помогать и разруливать проблемы на Монархе. На этом все. Как говорится, всем спасибо, всем пока.